Oh, come on. Did it work? Did it work? I think it worked. Okay. I was just I was on here and oh goodness, hold on. Everything's all funky and messed up. Yeah, I was over here and I kept clicking to go live and it kept giving me an error. So hopefully I'm live across both platforms. Okay. All right. It worked. Thanks, guys. All right. Wow. Sorry about that. I have actually been up here for the whole 8 minutes in front of here trying to gather all of my links up for you guys. Normally I have sort of a story or a narrative in my head of all of the news and how I'm going to put it all together and make it all fit into a nice little like a plot line, right? And I don't know, man, this week the news is just so all over the place, and it's mostly today it's going to mostly be here are a bunch of really crazy insane stories and things that I've seen, and just here's everything that's happening. It's going to be one of those days. First I'm going to jump in and see who's here. Oh, I already have a super chat. Oh, and I clicked on it and it disappeared. Here we go. From Bruce the Boss. Sorry I missed last week. Every first Friday in San Antonio, we have a costume-themed pub crawl. Not a mask in sight. Love, Texas. What was the theme this week? Interesting. Costume-themed. Huh. All right, so let's see. Who do we have here? We have Hugh Galbraith, BS in California. We have Robin in the house. Cap'n Mac, Tada. Gardner is here. Hi, Gardner. Michael J. Squid Monkey, Michael Tomlinson. Robert Graham, Jesse Meek, Stephen Lestick, Uncle Mike, and me in the chat. Fish and Golf and Guns. Benjamin Sholnick. Jameson Wilfon, Nomad 0036, because last week we figured out there's 2 nomads that come into the chat. A Cyclone Steve, Mark MQ, Jesse Sowell, Rose Blight, Leonidas L. Beria, John Morgan, Mark M. Scott Goldfarb. We'll scroll way down. David Dole, You Got Sniped. Brett Ain't Dead. Bob Hool. Omega. Neo Wolf. Patrick Doyle. Ricky L. Hendricks, David Neal, Shawnette Zakaria, Tony Perales, Ginger Monkey Bear, Madcap Magician, JP, Kirk Morrison, 2A Guy, Brandex 1000, HPV. I'm sure that stands for something. Carrie Nethers, Tim Allen, Deputy Take Catch, Satos, Armed for Defense. I think, and thank you for the comment on my other channel. I think that was you. 9 Mills on 2 Wheels, Agorizer, Cap and Pegs, Still Maniac 88, Glenn Venisdale. We have Liberty Doggo behind me, Jens Frisch, D-Lo, North California, Scottish Pride, Chase Bonsai, Marilyn Launchbaugh from Nebraska, Tennessee Beowulf, and all right, and DB Cisco, and I think I'm at the bottom now. Jason Krause. I know I've missed some people, but I try to like scroll through really quick and get a bunch. Prepper Book Club, Mr. Dreaded 88, a bunch of folks in today. So yes, and Liberty Doggo sighting. Jason Krause says that Governor Inslee fires me October 18th for not taking the poison Washington State. Really? So did Washington State, is that for certain workers, or is that a state thing? Because I'm hearing So I've heard that previously there were it was cities only, and there were 4 cities that had now put in place vaccine mandates. And then I just caught an article from yesterday that New Orleans is one of them now. So I don't know if we're up to 5. The only ones that I knew of previously were New York and San Francisco. So I don't know what the other 1 or 2 are, but cities are starting to require vaccine mandate, vaccine passports. New York is doing it. We talked about New York previously. Theirs is called the Excelsior Pass. And let's see, here we go. Somewhere on the website for the Excelsior Pass, I'll pop it in the chat here. We talked about them, I think, last week or the week before, the Excelsior Pass. If you read on the website, it actually, if you bring your vaccine card or the Excelsior Pass, you actually have to bring your ID along with it to get into some of these, well, all of the venues that are requiring it now. And the use of the word venue is a little misleading because it's like bars, restaurants, movie theaters, and gyms. But as you would recall, Bill de Blasio was talking about also extending it to stores in general. So I don't know if we're going to get to a point where vaccines are mandated to do your groceries in person. Absolutely ridiculous. But the funny thing is we have some of these red states that are trying to pass voter ID laws. And the reason we're told that those are bad is because, excuse me, I have the hiccups. I like stuffed a snack in my face before I came on. The reason that we're told that this is bad is because it's racist, because apparently people of color don't know how to get IDs or don't have access to IDs or don't carry them or lose them or don't understand the technology. There's been various iterations of that explanation. But every time it's been basically black and brown people are too poor or dumb to have an ID, is what it boils down to, which is, of course, racism of soft expectations. But with this Excelsior Pass in New York City, you are required to also show your ID to prove that it's you and that you're not just using someone else's pass or vaccine card. We've also seen, I believe we talked about it on the show. It was a few weeks back. There was an article, I believe it was by 538, that talked about like, okay, so we're told that this pandemic is continuing because of the anti-vaxxers. So who is it that isn't actually vaccinated? And it turns out that it's largely young people, and it's Black people and Hispanic people. And Asians, I believe, are the next group in that. So requirements like this are going to disproportionately affect people of color who they already said were disproportionately affected by COVID because of their poor access to healthcare, or I don't know. That was one of the reasons. There was a few different reasons floating around as to why it disproportionately affected those communities. But remember, it didn't affect anyone with the BLM protests because the contact tracers weren't allowed to actually ask about it. And that's why it turned out that none of these protests were super spreader events when really you weren't allowed to ask for it, or ask about it. So racism when it comes to voting, but not when it comes to vaccine passports. Now, the title of this video is from a quote from Rand Paul that he put in a video on Twitter, and he's gotten a lot of backlash for it. He kind of went viral over it, actually. And I really liked it and thought that it would be a really good summary and a really good, like, catchphrase title for this video. Because if anyone here was at the meet and greet that I did with Philosopher down in Florida in April, part of that meet and greet included a little talk, right? And I wrote something ahead of time and got it all ready. And basically, the premise of that was they can't arrest all of us as far as gun rights. And now here's Rand Paul saying they can't arrest all of us. So we're going to start out with this. And then we'll go into all of the fun, and by fun, I mean horribly tragic news stories. So let me zoom in a bit here so we can see it. So first you can see the tweet says, "We are at a moment of truth and a crossroads. Will we allow these people to use fear and propaganda to do further harm to our society, economy, and children? Or will we stand together and say, absolutely not? Not this time. I choose freedom." So I haven't listened to the whole video. We're going to do that right now. And hopefully not break my microphone in the process.
It's time for us to resist. They can't arrest all of us. They can't keep all of your kids home from school. They can't keep every government building closed, although I've got a long list of ones they might keep closed or might ought to keep closed. We don't have to accept the mandates, lockdowns, and harmful policies of the petty tyrants and bureaucrats. We can simply say no, not again. Nancy Pelosi, you will not arrest or stop me or anyone on my staff from doing our jobs. We have either had COVID, had the vaccine, or been offered the vaccine. We will make our own health choices. We will not show you a passport. We will not wear a mask. We will not be forced into random screenings and testings so you can continue your drunk with power reign over the Capitol. President Biden, we will not accept your agency's mandates or your reported moves towards a lockdown. No one should follow the CDC's anti-science mask mandates. And if you want to shut down federal agencies again, some of which aren't even back to work yet, I will stop every bill coming through the Senate with an amendment to cut their funding if they don't come back to work in person. Local bureaucrats and union bosses, we will not allow you to do more harm to our children again this year. Children are not at any more risk from COVID than they are from the seasonal flu. Every adult who works in schools has either had the vaccine or had their chance to get vaccinated. There is no reason for mask mandates, part-time schools, or any lockdown measures. Children are falling behind in school and are being harmed physically and psychologically by the tactics that you have used to keep them from the classroom during the last year. We won't allow it again. If a school system attempts to keep children from full-time in-person school, I will hold up every bill with two amendments, one to defund them and another to allow parents the choice of where the money goes for their child's education. Do I sound fed up to you? That's because I am. I'm not a career politician. I practiced medicine for 33 years. I graduated from Duke Medical School. I've worked in emergency rooms. I've studied immunology and virology. And I ultimately chose to become an eye surgeon. I've been telling everyone for a year now that Dr. Fauci and other public health bureaucrats were not following the science, and I've been proven right time and time again. But I'm not the only one who's fed up. I can't go anywhere these days without people coming up and thanking me for standing up for them, whether I'm at work or at events in Kentucky, at airports, in restaurants, or in stores. People thank me for taking a stand. They thank me for standing up for actual science, for standing up for freedom, for standing against mandates, lockdowns, and bureaucratic power grabs. I think the tide is turning as more and more people are willing to stand up. I see stories from across the country of parents standing up to the unions and school boards. I see brave moms standing up and saying, my kids need to go back to school in person. I see members of Congress refusing to comply with petty tyrant Pelosi. We are at a moment of truth and a crossroads. Will we allow these people to use fear and propaganda to do further harm to our society, economy, and children? Or will we stand together and say, absolutely not, not this time, I choose freedom?
I like this comment. Dr. Paul didn't kill himself. He's certainly making Papa Paul proud. Oh, goodness. Is this breaking? I tried to find a different mic stand for this microphone, by the way. And apparently I'd have to buy the whole microphone all over again because it doesn't actually, you can't buy the cord separate, and the cord is attached to this arm. So I know some people have been like, oh, get a new stand. And apparently it's a whole thing. Yeah, Rand Paul's making Papa Paul proud, and his 2A guy says Dr. Paul didn't kill himself. I saw a few comments in there said, oh, like how long until here was Clayton was what, is Rand flying the black flag yet? So supposedly, according to someone who I know who is in politics that knows him, he claims that Rand Paul does in fact fly the black flag. But this is also someone who probably does not have the most accurate definition of anarchism or anarcho-capitalism. So, a little bit different, perhaps. Rose Blight says, Tennessee Executive Order 83 concentration camps are gulags for the unvaxxed. But then I see someone else saying that that's not true. So, excuse me, I just did a quick search for it. And this says, okay, this is some random website. So I'm not going to use a random website. We'll go with, here we go, a news website. We'll take a news website and see what this is, because I am not aware of this unless this is, I know that Robin sent me something from Tennessee. So Alex Darlington says, why has your mic stand broken? It's just not designed to move around, I guess. Okay, so all right, so this is about Executive Order 83, it says. So we'll see what this actually is here. Governor of Tennessee has signed an executive order reinstating certain regulatory flexibilities for hospitals following an increase in COVID-19 cases. And I want to point out, there was a couple weeks ago that I showed that graph that showed that we actually have fewer deaths since even the start of the pandemic. At this point, I am seeing all kinds of other people claiming that the hospitals are as overwhelmed now as they were at the peak of things. And I've had a few people even say to me like, oh, well, what are they doing in South Carolina? Because it's this huge hotspot. And I'm like, it is? Where? And if you look at the numbers, they're like, oh, South Carolina has this big hotspot. And the last I looked, it said something like 26 people had died of COVID this month. And I'm like, wait, so that's the big COVID hotspot. 26 deaths in a month, and not to belittle those 26 people and their families. It's just not what I would define as a hotspot. And so I think that that's definitely some fear mongering there. And I don't know, like, again, we're getting the conflicting reports of some people saying, like, oh, well, the hospitals are getting overwhelmed again, and there's all these people in the ICU. And then other people are being like, yeah, but they're also firing nurses and other health professionals for not being vaccinated. And in fact, I have a friend who works at a hospital in Rhode Island, and the hospital is requiring all of their workers to be vaccinated. And some of the hospital workers are actually staging a rally in protest. And that kind of says something if the medical workers that are supposedly so overwhelmed by this are not getting the vaccine. I think it also says a lot about how this is more about perhaps power and control, because if you consider, right, in the beginning of all of this, they had no problem with people reusing PPE and using it between COVID patients and non COVID patients and all of the stuff that was going on there. And now all of a sudden, oh, well, if you don't get vaccinated, well, we're going to fire you again, even though they're claiming that they don't have enough staff as it is and they're already overwhelmed. So they're going to fire their staff. But there are some theories as to why some of those policies are being put in place, and I have an article a little bit about that in a bit. So let's see what this particular executive order is from Tennessee. Okay, so Executive Order 83, signed August 6th, which allows out-of-state healthcare providers to practice in Tennessee. Okay. Also enables retired medical professionals to easily re-enter the healthcare workforce. Is this new? Okay, it is, because I mean, this sounds like stuff that was put in place last March in a lot of other places. Says COVID cases have doubled in the state week after week. Currently, 27 children are hospitalized with the virus, with 10 of those patients in ICU. Now, I will comment and say we don't have the long-term data on the Delta variant currently, but last year, through all of 2020, there were more children that die on average of drowning than passed away from COVID last year. And that is all children from babies to the age of 18. It's typically not something that really affects children all that much. And as I see, Robin says, tobacco-related deaths number almost 500,000 every year, but no one has required bubbles over smokers' heads. Absolutely. And secondhand smoke is dangerous to pregnant people and people with all kinds of lung issues and stuff like that. Okay, so Rose says specifically it's in Section 8. So let's go through. So here is the executive order. Says because hospitalizations continue to increase, reinstatement of certain regulatory things. So the out-of-state healthcare providers, retired healthcare providers. Where's the rest of it? Okay. So they only include 2 sections in this article for some reason, and then it stops, but it's not even a full sentence. So what are you doing, Action News? That's disappointing. Okay. Let me see if I can find let me see if I can find a different article here. Let's try this MSN article. Do they have the whole thing? No, they don't. This is... Oh, here we go. Okay, found a link. This is why I try to get all my links together beforehand, but Facebook was yelling at me for not being live yet. So here we go. All right, so we got section 1, 2, 3. Practical nursing graduates may practice under supervision without examination. Medical professional staffing flexibility permitted. Oh, okay. I think that this is the one that Robin, is this the one that you were telling me about where it says that you can hospitalize with a telehealth appointment? Let's see. Oh, that was order 66. Okay. Robin says it is. Okay. So Robin had a question about the executive order saying that you can hospitalize someone for mental illness over a telehealth assessment as per one of the executive orders. And so my answer to that is I suppose it can be helpful in certain cases where if someone is really sick with someone or something, for example, but the way that hospitalization works when you are a mental health professional is, so say I have someone in my office and they are threatening to hurt themselves or hurt someone else, and they are 100% serious and absolutely mean to do it, and we have all the information of like the way that they're planning to do it, they have a means to do it, they have a plan, it's a lethal plan, etc., etc., etc. Examples include I had someone that threatened a school with a pipe bomb once. I had someone that threatened to shoot someone. I've had people express to me suicidal plans and they had the means with which to do it. So things like that. What happens in that case is I have to file something that in Massachusetts was called a Section 12. I'm not sure what it is here in South Carolina. It's called something different in every state. It's called Section 12 in Massachusetts because that's the law section that pertains to it. You file a Section 12. In my case, even though I have more mental health training than a social worker, I'm not allowed to sign a Section 12 in Massachusetts, so I have to find someone else to sign it. And then I have to call the police and I have to fax it to them so that they can get an ambulance to go get the person. It's also really good policy and good form to call the hospital as well and alert the emergency department that someone is coming in, and this is why. Then the person gets transported via ambulance to the hospital. The police give the hospital staff the paperwork, and they are re-evaluated while at the hospital to make sure that they actually do fit the clinical criteria to be hospitalized. The clinical criteria, there's 3 of them and they're very specific. You have to be a danger to yourself, and it has to be imminent, like no questions about it. A risk to someone else also has to be imminent, no questions about it. The third can get a little questionable, and it's also a form of danger to yourself. It's someone who's basically so psychotic and out of touch with reality that they're not able to rationally make decisions or take care of themselves. And it's not like, when I say that, it's not like, how do I explain this? Rational decision making in the sense that rational decision making in the sense that you are maybe running naked through the streets and barking and trying to bite people, or like you have completely out of touch of reality kind of rational decision making, and taking care of yourself. Not like, I know a lot of people would look at that and say, oh, well, you could argue that owning a gun, some people might think that that's not a rational decision. It's not that kind of rational decision. It's that this person is on like the acid trip of a lifetime, except it's their brain that's actually doing it, and they're in a hardcore, very severe state of psychosis where I mean, I can't give examples because I don't know if that would be like I can't necessarily give examples of things that I've dealt with because I'm not sure of the HIPAA implications of that, or if there are HIPAA implications to that. But it's usually people with like really severe mania, schizophrenia, schizophreniform, things like that, where it used to be that there was this GAF score that we would give, which was Global Assessment of Functioning. The average person is around like a 75 to 80. This would be someone who's functioning at like a 25 or a 30 if they're lucky. So, anyways, so Madcap Magician says that running through the streets naked and trying to bite people is a normal Saturday night for them. What is the textbook example? Anil In asks. I mean, that's so difficult because textbook examples. Do I even have my DSM up here? No. All right. We'll pull up. This will have to be the DSM-4 because they don't have it in the DSM-5 anymore. We'll do the GAF score and we'll go that way. They don't use this anymore, but they did. So the average person is between a 71 and an 80, which is that absent or minimal symptoms, such as mild anxiety before an exam, good functioning in all areas, interested and involved in a wide range of activities, socially effective, generally satisfied with life, no more than everyday problems or concerns. So this is your everyday average person. If someone is hospitalized, they're usually a 21 to 30, which is behavior is considerably influenced by delusions or hallucinations or serious impairment in communication or judgment. For example, they might be incoherent, they act really inappropriately, and they have suicidal preoccupation or an inability to function in almost all areas of life. The example that they gave is stays in bed all day, no job, home, or friends. So that would be the psychosis. Maybe you believe that there is someone that keeps breaking into your house and peeing in your makeup, and it's a midget that steals people's faces. This is actually an example that I've required, and you call the police about it every day, 5, 10, 15 times a day, and keep filing police reports for it, and you keep bugging the cops for it and bugging anyone who will listen about this weird face-stealing midget that keeps breaking into your apartment. That might be an example. We also have lower than that. Some people, unfortunately, are lower than that. Danger to self of hurting others, unable to maintain personal hygiene, such as smearing feces. This is not like not showering for a week. It's putting bodily fluids where they don't belong. And so along with this would be like impairments in reality testing, things like that. What are some other, I other examples? Someone, a demon kept telling them to try to remove their body parts. Things like that. Someone who couldn't eat anymore because they were getting tactile and olfactory, and I can't remember the word for taste, but taste hallucinations, where every time they ate, it turned into like a rotted carcass, and so they had stopped eating. Things like that. So I'm talking severe stuff, but we got kind of on a tangent here about this. But so those are the qualifications for being hospitalized for a mental health issue to begin with. And again, legal practice and ethical practice is there is someone, and they can only be a mental health or medical professional or the police, that section you get sent to a hospital emergency where you are re-evaluated by a psychiatrist or a psychologist or someone else who is specifically trained in crisis intervention with that criteria. So I believe that the saying that they're able to do it now through telehealth would be like the initial encounter that then allows the section to be filed, because the person has to be transmitted to the hospital. So they would still have to have that second evaluation at the hospital no matter what. Healthcare student staffing flexibility is permitted. Section 7, again, is a student staffing. So here's Section 8. Oh, interesting. Section 8 of this Executive Order 83 in Tennessee says discretion to utilize National Guard and State Guard members in connection with certain healthcare and emergency services operations. All right, it's issued for authorizing personnel under this code that I don't know what that code is to serve in certain healthcare and emergency services roles to reduce system capacity strain resulting from COVID-19. Ah, shit, I said it. All right, well, this stream is doomed. Namely, personnel may perform authorized diagnostic testing for COVID, including but unlimited to hospitals, emergency departments, and alternate care sites, perform authorized nursing, operate publicly or privately owned permitted ambulance service vehicles with a licensed service. Okay, so I'm not seeing anything about like quarantines here. They can't operate under the paragraph unless requested by the governor. Shall have appropriate training or skills. Shall determine the facilities that they're assigned to. Must admit in writing responsibilities and tasks. A list of personnel designated to operate. Blah, blah, blah. Any authority, duties, or scope of practice suspensions extended to personnel to this paragraph shall terminate upon the expiration of the paragraph. Okay, so... And then we have a couple sections about ambulances. Oh, this is interesting. Designation of payment for certain nursing facilities as COVID-19 skilled nursing facilities and units. There is something, and Medicaid payments. This is something that Biden is considering toying with, actually. And I've got that in an article later. Increase the number of hospital beds. Oh, here is the section actually on telephone assessments here for emergency involuntary commitment. So yes, the telephone assessment of such a person by a mandatory pre-screening agent. So yeah, it's not for the final evaluation to have the person hospitalized. It's like the pre-screening evaluation here. Testing for COVID, medical lab testing, okay, here we go. It's section 18. Temporary quarantine and isolation facilities may be constructed. These provisions of Tennessee Code are hereby suspended to allow for construction of temporary structures, the plans for which would otherwise be subject to review for new construction, blah, 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 TEMA in response to COVID-19. Okay. That's all that it really says. So temporary quarantine and isolation facilities may be constructed. So this just says that they'll be constructed. It doesn't say how they'll be used or who is going to them or what the dealio is with that. So, All right. That's about all the information that we have. It looks like they're holding inspections for now, and that's it. So that's all that the paragraph says. We can certainly speculate from it, but all it says basically is that they're going to allow the construction of temporary hospitals and isolation facilities. It doesn't say anything about like for unvaccinated people or anything like that. So I guess interpret that as you will. So I've mentioned this article a couple of times, so we'll go to it. This was actually sent to me by a friend this morning, and it's not necessarily the whole article that is pertinent here. This is from the AP. It's been reprinted in a lot of different news outlets today. Biden eyes tougher vaccine rules without provoking backlash. Sounds innocent enough to some people. And it talks about when the pace of vaccination started to go down, Joe Biden backed incentives like $1 million cash lotteries. And now he's going for a tougher approach. And this is where he's meeting with business leaders, telling them that they should require COVID vaccines. He's mandating shots for people traveling into the U.S. from overseas. And then this part, the White House is weighing options to be more assertive at the state and local level, including potential support for school districts imposing rules to prevent spread of the virus over the objection of Republican leaders. Now, it doesn't say exactly what that is for a few paragraphs. But even as Biden becomes more aggressive, he's refrained from using all of his powers to pressure Americans to get vaccinated. He's held off, for instance, on proposals to require vaccines for all air travelers, or for that matter, the federal workforce. I believe federal workers now are required, unless there is something that happened in between when he announced that and when this was posted yesterday. But I remember we looked at those articles on the stream. And it says like, oh, the result is a precarious balancing act. So what are some of the other things that he's looking at the state and local levels? Well, particularly, where is it? It's way, way down in here. Still, more severe measures such as mandating vaccines for interstate travel or changing how the federal government reimburses treatment for those who are unvaccinated and become ill with COVID-19 have been discussed. The administration worried that they would be too polarizing for the moment. That's not to say they won't be implemented in the future as public opinion continues to shift towards requiring vaccinations as a means to restore normalcy. Biden is considering requiring vaccines for interstate travel, is what this means. According to the AP, they're like, oh, well, he hasn't done it yet. Doesn't matter. He's considering it. That's what he's considering as far as more restrictions at the state and local level, is requiring it for interstate travel. And they're like, oh, well, public opinion continues to shift towards requiring vaccinations to restore normalcy. Well, the example that they use as to why people public opinion is, oh, well, this poll that says 51% of Americans say the federal government should recommend that employers require their workers to get vaccinated, while 45 say that it should not. This poll from the Kaiser Family Foundation, I believe that's how you say it, This poll that says 51% of Americans say the government should recommend that employers require their workers to get vaccinated is the example that they're using that Americans as a whole support vaccine mandates. 51%, I would not say, is the majority of Americans. It's just slightly over 50-50. It's 51 and 49. I mean, I suppose that can win you an election, but public opinion, as Shane Lackey says, public opinion is not the law. And yes, as Nasir Jones Bay says, that is scary as hell. It is absolutely terrifying to me. When my friend sent me this, my jaw dropped open. I could not believe it. And like I said, this article has been reprinted through many, many news outlets today. And they're like, oh, and the headline is that he's eyeing the tougher vaccine rules without creating a backlash. And as a friend pointed out to me today, there are people getting mad just about the school systems requiring vaccines. Imagine when he gets to this point. Now, some people have said, well, there's no way that they could enforce this. Like, who are they going to have to enforce this? Well, I don't know if you guys remember a video that I did last year. Let me pull up the channel here. That people said, oh, there's no way that this could happen. Well, remember this video? Right? Whoops. Where did it go? Here we go. National Guard checkpoints and door-to-door searches in Rhode Island. If you haven't seen it, I would suggest checking it out. This was one of the most dystopian things I have seen in my lifetime. And a friend of mine lived in Rhode Island at the time, and where his house was, he could actually see the parts of the highway that they had the National Guard and the police stationed at to do this. Originally they were stopping only cars from New York, and then they started stopping cars from other states, and they were all stationed up and down the Rhode Island border from Connecticut and Massachusetts, stopping out-of-state travelers to ask them why they were there. And if it wasn't for work, they were turning around and making them go back. They also had police that were driving through, I can't believe this, driving through parking lots looking for out-of-state plates. They did something similar to this in I believe it was Cape Cod, where they were looking for, and I believe also the Hamptons, any vacation area in the Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New York area. They were also going through and looking for out-of-state plates at those vacation areas to also send people back home. So people are saying this could never happen. There would be no one to enforce it. We have already seen one state call in the National Guard to enforce interstate checkpoints. It can happen. It has already happened. So when they're saying, oh, well, who would enforce this? The National Guard would enforce this, and they already have. Not the vaccines, but interstate travel restrictions. Absolutely. Also, we have John Morgan says that he saw footage from Europe early on of police setting up roadblocks and checking drivers. Yep. They were doing that in Italy, was one of the places they were doing that. You were not allowed to cross their version of county lines, basically. They have the military in Australia right now enforcing lockdowns. We also have this My husband sent me this today. They might just have you wear this nice little hospital bracelet with a QR code so you can show and easily access your vaccination status. This is creepy. For only $19.99. or a premium bracelet with your name on it for $25. What a good deal. It's the only secure way to take your vaccine card with you. And it's being marketed for business so that you can have your employees just show their commitment to safety, it says. Well, I mean, maybe there will be a state or federal version of this. And look, it's already been covered in all of these news organizations. So it is a terrifyingly legitimate product. I'm curious what it says in the About Us. Their mission is to bring the world a little closer in a time of COVID for you to demonstrate to the world your vaccination status. This is like those stupid rubber bracelets that people buy for like whatever charitable cause of the moment. Defeating this pandemic takes both collective and individual action, the highest expression of which is the enormous concentration of research, experimentation, and capital that produced a successful vaccine in record time. As a society, I feel like they should have the "we're in a society" meme here. As a society, there are actions we can take every day to ensure the health and safety of ourselves and those around us. As an individual, you have demonstrated your commitment to completing the vaccination series. That will be never ending because they're talking about all these different boosters that they want you to have. I know that I have not been good about checking the super chat, so I'm going to do that right now. Madcap Magician says, yeah, experimentation on humans. That's exactly what it is. Oh, really? Is YouTube not going to work properly? And let me see the super chats. All right. It is not. This is not working at all. Okay. All right. So I will scroll up and see the ones that I can see here. I don't have access to all of them here in the StreamYard, so I'm going to do the best that I can. Leonidas says, hi, doll. My brother died of an OD. Oh, I'm so sorry. Don't want... Oh. Next sentence is don't want condolences. Sorry. Sorry for saying sorry. Nobody, including me, liked him. He was nothing but a menace, looking for the scoundrels that sold him the stuff. Rumors have it that family members are involved. Wish us luck. Yeah, I mean, and unfortunately with COVID, ODs and substance abuse went way up. And the funny thing is, you can section someone for being so delusional and psychotic that they can't function as a human being. But in order to section someone for drug use in Massachusetts, that's a Section 35. It's a mandatory 30 days of rehab. You have to go to court for it, actually, and you can only be a family member, which is interesting, the different qualifications for it. Jesse Meek says, I'm not very religious, but does anyone else get Mark of the Beast vibes from all of this? I did see a couple people saying that in the chat. Yeah, it's super sketchy and super freaky. And Daniel Menzer says, it's the only way. Robin says, I have no stake in this company at all, but I thought that was funny. What company? Oh, that might be one of the ones that I can't see. Stupid YouTube. YouTube freaked me out earlier because I uploaded the new video, and then instantly when I went into... This is really... Maybe if I try opening in a new window? Nope. That's really frustrating. I can only go so far back as A Cyclone Steve. who says, why is COVID treatment free? Answer: to save lives. And then it cuts off. I can't see the rest of it. Q said something about we need to do something about this midget. This is really frustrating. I reloaded the page. But yeah, earlier I uploaded. It's not letting me access the super chats. That's really frustrating. I am really sorry, guys. Let's see. Okay, I've got another one. These, so the ones that are the most recent ones here, I can see in StreamYard. Bruce the Boss says, Supreme Court ruled CDC eviction moratorium illegal. CDC does it anyway. Is there any more rule of law? We talked about this last week, I think. The theories of Biden kind of did it because it's going to take like at least a month to go through the court system, and then he's going to try to pack the courts. That's one theory. Robin says, oh, she sent it's she said she forgot the link. Okay. And it's, I can't click on it in here. I would be able to click on it in the super chat window in YouTube if it would work. But apparently not. Oh, okay. Indiana Troy says that Matt and Blonde had the same issue on Wednesday. Okay, well, I'm sorry that they had it, but and Mark M says the same thing. Someone emailed them to Matt in progress. Cool. You know what? Yeah, let's do that. If someone wants to email them to me, I know that that's like crappy, but and I have an email from Trashman as well with his intro that wouldn't get into YouTube. Let me put my email in here. That's a really good idea. Because, I mean, you guys paid for that. Like, but yeah, earlier, I know I started to say this story 3 times. Earlier, I posted the video, and then I went in my dashboard to check to make sure that it went through and to make sure I didn't get any like Insta strikes from it because of the topic, obviously, the thumbnail, the tags, the description. All of it had some things that could be on shaky ground. So I went into my dashboard, and there was like error, and it was just like this triangle with an exclamation point in it. And that was all that I got. And then I was like, holy shit. So I went back to YouTube, and I went to my channel, and I went to click on the video, and again got the same error. And I was like, oh my God, holy shit, they nuked me. They nuked me, and they didn't even warn me. And then I reloaded, and it was back. And I was like, okay. Andrew Kang says Googaloo. Oh, goodness. But so luckily that was okay. So Trashman says, it's been a brutal week, not going to be able to stay awake for the dollhouse, so here goes. So here was his intro late. Live from the Goober Graham state, it's the lady who doesn't care what Conan the Republican thinks of her freedom, is not fooled by the infrastructure rhinos BS, and who would love to psychoanalyze the Cuomo brothers for the fun of it. And with that, here's Dolly. I actually would love to psychoanalyze the Cuomo brothers. That would be really fascinating. Really fascinating. Oh, goodness. All right, so let's see. I'm checking the email. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 email addresses now, so I have to scroll through and find the right one. All right. So the email is open. Madcap says 1 Cuomo down, 1 to go. Mark says it's odd that this phenomenon has occurred twice in a week with different channels. Susanism. Yeah. And, you know, the funny thing is, I thought about doing a video on it, but it ended up not being anything all that interesting or exciting. But Susan wrote an op-ed about the importance of freedom of speech in the Wall Street Journal. So it was behind a paywall. Luckily, someone with a subscription had archived it at archive.today, so I was able to read it. It was really short, actually. Basically, all it said, I mean, it wouldn't have been enough for a video. All it said was like, oh, the importance of freedom of speech, but also balancing, our responsibilities for stopping hate speech. And these are all the policies that YouTube has done over the last couple of years to fall in line with government recommendations, blah, 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 basically. It wasn't anything all that exciting. But Leonidas says, next thing you know, they're going to shave all of our heads bald and tattoo barcodes and serial numbers on the back of them. Yeah. It's certainly looking like that at points here. All right. Well, while I'm waiting for that, I can't seem to find the... here we go. Oh, this is a video. Damn it, NBC. I don't want to watch the video. NBC ran a story that I can't seem to find now, where of all outlets, NBC was saying that vaccine mandates are going to hurt employers and it's going to hurt the economy because, oh, here we go. Maybe this is it. This might be it. Basically, they said that there's going to be a smaller pool of people that can apply for a lot of these job openings if they're going to start requiring vaccines, because there are people that didn't get them or can't get them for whatever reason. And so it's actually going to hurt the economy to have vaccine mandates. I don't know if this is the article that said it. Let's see. For private employees, every employer can mandate health requirements for their workers. This is talking about schools. It's for the good of the public health. Oh, the New York Stock Exchange has implemented a vaccine mandate on the same day as California schools. Nope, this is not the article. I was trying to find it before I came on and couldn't get there. But, all right, well then, how about they did put a compilation together of all the companies that are requiring vaccines thus far. It's quite a few. We have Amtrak. And that's going to be starting October 4th. Anthem, that's an insurance company. BlackRock, I know they've been in the news a lot as far as buying houses. They're an investment company, apparently. Cisco, Citigroup, Delta, DoorDash, Equinox, Facebook, Ford, Goldman Sachs, Google, Jefferies, whatever that is, another financial companies, will only allow vaccinated individuals into its offices and to outside company events. Lyft are going to have to show proof of vaccination. Microsoft, Morgan Stanley, NBC, Netflix, The New York Times, Saks, Salesforce, Twitter, Tyson Foods. Oh, that explains why I saw a bunch of lefties on Twitter talking about how they were going to go buy a bunch of chicken from Tyson Foods. That explains that. Uber, Union Square Hospitality Group, United Airlines is requiring all U.S.-based employees to get vaccinated. There's actually, there's a couple airlines that aren't doing this. And I had previously seen an article saying Delta was one of them, but it seems like that has been reversed. But there are a couple who are not going to require it, or at least aren't requiring it yet. CBS, Walgreens, Disney, Walmart. All corporate associates, managers, and new hires are required to get their shot by October 4th. and the Washington Post. There are others that I've seen, but these are all of the really big ones. So here is the new vaccine mandate in San Fran. San Francisco will soon become the first major city in the United States to require proof of full vaccination against COVID for a variety of high-risk indoor activities that involve eating, drinking, or exercising. This was posted today, but New York City has already done it, unless it's... All right, so in New York City, it's not actually taking effect until next month. This takes effect in a week, August 20th. So that's what makes them the first. With nearly 80% of the city's eligible population vaccinated, officials hope the new rule, which takes effect August 20th, will encourage holdouts to get their shots, especially as the highly infectious Delta variant, blah, 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 brings another spike of hospitalizations. Biden is really in that AP article. It mentioned how he's really hoping that these businesses and different city mandates get the vaccination percentage high enough so that he doesn't have to do the requirements for interstate travel. But the fact that it's even on the table, I feel like we're going to get there. Because people are going to see these mandates and they're just going to push back against them, right? So what businesses will require proof? According to the San Francisco Chronicle, the rule applies to any establishments or events where food or drink is served indoors, including restaurants, bars, clubs, theaters, and other entertainment venues. It also applies to gyms, recreation facilities, yoga studios, dance studios, and other fitness establishments where people engage in exercise that causes heavy breathing. So one of the best things that you can do to be healthy and help stave off COVID is to exercise and be healthy, but now they're going to make you have a vaccine in order to do that in San Francisco. I think some of these places that still have a few conservative holdouts here and there are going to see these people fleeing. The rule also applies to customers. So while employees, rather, it's going to apply to employees and customers. Customers will be required to show their vaccine cards by August 20th. Employees of the establishments will have until October 13th to be vaccinated. So they get an extra 2 months, apparently. And businesses have to post signs. The only exemptions right now are retailers and grocery stores and children under 12 who are ineligible to be vaccinated. Remember, when we looked at the New York rules, they were still contemplating whether or not children would be allowed in these spaces. Customers will have to show they are vaccinated only if they plan to eat and drink inside. Those picking up takeout order will not be required to show proof of vaccination. But they have an indoor mask mandate for them instead. So, I mean, really, what's the point if you're still walking in and getting takeout? Like, this is so ridiculous. Most venues will accept physical cards or a clear photo of it. Now, here's a fun part. Tells you where you can get your digital vaccine record. With a rise in offers of bogus vaccination cards, vendors will have to eyeball each one for forgeries. So what happens if someone is found to have a forged vaccine card, you might ask? Well, fines and 5 years in prison for a fake vaccination card. Check this out. This is from an NBC affiliate out of Tampa, Florida. As more places require proof of vaccines, more fake vaccination cards are turning up. Says the vaccine said anyone caught using one will face charges. State and federal leaders are cracking down on people making and selling fake vaccination cards. You can buy them online and this is kind of funny. It says one Twitter account called Vaccination Cards said it's selling them for $25. They tell you in this article where to go get one. And then it takes you to a Telegram app where you're prompted to send a message. They tell you in this article how to go get a fake card, but it also is like, oh yeah, well, there's going to be charges if you go and do it. So the app and the card that they give you supposedly looks very legitimate, and it says that you've been vaccinated and when you got it and your first and second dose. But he says even when he found out it wasn't legit, he wasn't amused. It's dumb. Why would you get a fake vaccine card when you could get it for free? He said this guy clearly doesn't understand the point. So it looks like eBay, Shopify, and Twitter are cracking down and trying to stop the sale of fake cards. And the thing is these people don't understand economics. Whenever you mandate something or, make something, whenever you mandate something like a vaccine, or if you make it harder to get, like drugs, for example, a black market will always sprout up where there is a market or where there is a need or a desire, the market will provide. Same thing, bootleg DVDs. This really is no different. Torrenting, no different, really. Of course, they're going to mandate something that a whole bunch of people don't want to get. So what are they going to get? They're going to go out and get frauds. It's no different than, popping over to Union Square in New York City and buying a fake Gucci handbag out of a trash bag. I did that once for funsies when I was a teenager. But, they're going to try to stop this. There's going to be no way that they can stop it, really. A letter from some attorney generals say these deceptive cards threaten the health of our communities, slow progress in getting people protected, and violate many state laws. Colleges are requiring them, so there's concern that students will take on fake cards. The FBI says you're breaking the law if you make or buy a fake, misrepresenting yourself as being vaccinated and going to houses of worship, going into gyms, going into schools. It's not only about putting you at risk, but it's also putting others at risk, says the PR specialist for FBI Kansas City division. Well, what's interesting is look at that. Going into homes or going into houses of worship, going into gyms, going into schools. We already know some places are requiring it for gyms and schools, but right here, this suggests the next step is requiring vaccine passports to go to church. See that? How they stuck that in there? You could face a fine and up to 5 years in prison, according to this FBI spokesperson, because you're using a government agency seal without permission. But, and as Rand Paul said, well, they can't arrest all of us. They can't stop all of us. But there's going to be someone that they catch and they're going to throw the book at them and they're going to make it a really big public thing to try and make an example of them and stop other people from doing it. We have in New Orleans. New Orleans is going to also require COVID vaccines or negative tests for bars, to go to a bar. I mean, I guess at least they're allowing negative tests because New York isn't. San Francisco isn't. New Orleans is, I guess. New Orleans residents and visitors must show proof of a COVID vaccine or a recent test to go inside restaurants, bars, and other indoor venues, including the Superdome. When you get further into this, they say indoor venues, but they're even talking about like cafes and sandwich shops and crap like that. So venues is kind of like a weird turn. I mean, I guess a cafe falls into a restaurant, but if it's like a coffee place, I don't know. The citywide vaccine mandate, one of the first in the United States, will take effect Monday and enforcement will begin August 23rd. Does not say yet how it will be enforced. The requirement covers anyone currently eligible for the vaccines, in addition to eating and drinking establishment and the Saints' upcoming preseason games at the Superdome. The rule will be enforced at fitness centers, casinos, strip clubs, and racetracks, as well as events at the Smoothie King Center. I'm guessing that's some big place. It also, here we go, covers outdoor gatherings of more than 500 people if the total attendance is greater than 50% of the venue's capacity. So even if you want to say go to an outdoor concert or carnival or, I don't know, a really, really gigantic wedding or something, you're also going to have proof of vaccine for that. Interesting. And of course, they are requiring masks indoors. And they want a vaccine card from the CDC or a digital picture of the card's front and back, as well as they have their own smartphone app or an equivalent app provided by other states. And they're saying, oh, the hospitals in New Orleans are overwhelmed, blah, blah, blah. Cantrell said that enforcement will be aggressive, but that the details are still being worked out. So they have something that takes place, goes into effect in 10 days, and they're not sure how they're going to enforce it yet. And in New Orleans, the mask mandate was reinstated July 30th. It says, and they are canceling and postponing major events in New Orleans, like a jazz and heritage festival, which is going to, of course, kill tourism. Super duper exciting. All right, I'm going to check my email here. Yes, okay. So Robin had sent in a super chat that said Jeff Dunham is using one of his mannequins, Walter, as Walter imitating Biden. He said Delta is the best movie that Chuck Norris ever made. Oh, goodness. And I got this super chat I can see here from Fernando. It says, how long before the secret police becomes a thing? Well, it's funny you should ask. The secret police do exist in the United States, and they have existed for some time. But an example, I talked about this ages ago, before I even did weekly videos on YouTube. I was on, some friends of mine had a little podcast called The Currency of Anarchy that they did every week, and I guested on that a few times. And the topic once was about the black site in Chicago at Honan Square. And basically they had secret police that, were literally grabbing people and putting bags over their heads and dragging them to this black site in Chicago. There's also a black site in New York City, I believe. So those things already exist to some degree. DB Cisco says no voting without a Vax ID. That's a good question. Oh, well, that would certainly be interesting. One of the theories that I heard that was floated on Tim Pool this week was that the Democrats are trying to push through and do all of these crazy things because, Biden's approval is dropping. I've seen articles every week about his approval ratings are dropping. And even the Democrats are starting to freak out about inflation. The media is dogpiling on anyone that talks about inflation and is trying to set the public against them. There was like this restaurant recently that did an interview, and they didn't even mention Biden, but they talked about inflation, and now all these other media outlets are running hit pieces on them. Mayonnaise gate. I don't know. It's stupid, but it's a thing. Biden's approval ratings are dropping. Everyone hates Kamala Harris. And so the theory is that they're trying to push some of this stuff and get really aggressive and ram this stuff through now because the Democrats are fearing a red wave in 2022 and that more people, more Republicans and conservatives are going to gain power, and then A, nothing will get done, or B, there's going to be articles of impeachment that they're going to have to fight against, kind of like they did to Trump. I did already see that there's someone that has already introduced articles of impeachment, but that's not going to go anywhere right now. That's just, that's the conservative version of virtue signaling right now, or taking a stand, whatever. It's not going to go anywhere at this point. Checkpoint says the Capitol Police are in every state now. Federal policy enforcers. Yes, I heard that as well. I saw a headline somewhere about that the Capitol Police are everywhere, and weren't they given some extra powers recently as well? Jim Paulo says the cards are easy to copy, no special paper, barcodes, holograms, or any security whatsoever. That is a good point. Checkpoint says we plebes get different rules. Yeah, I mean, Barack Obama had his big old party, right? Without much masking or vaccines. Acyclone Steve says the Capitol Police are the new secret police. Yep. Madcap Magician says that they're called the FBI, AFT, DHS, HHS, IRS, ATT, Verizon, HBO, and Netflix. And Shane Lackey says, that's racist. David Neal says the voting bill passed in the Texas Senate. I don't know what voting bill that is. Marcus Jones Stinks says, which ratings will bottom out first, Biden or CNN? That's a good question. CNN has steadily been dropping ever since the election, actually. Shane Lackey says the guilty dog barks the loudest. Oh, we have another super chat here. Oh, this is interesting. I did not know this. Acyclone Steve says Capitol Police are not subject to FOIA requests. Very interesting. I didn't know that. Robin said 1 mask, 2 mask, red mask, blue mask. I can't see the rest. Stupid YouTube. Well, shout out to whoever sent me PayPal instead. I don't know if that was meant to be read on air, so I won't read it on air. Let's see. What other articles did I have up? I don't know the other cities that are doing vaccine mandates. Oh, that's the last thing that I wanted to do. Actually, I think I can just go to Twitter for this. Something caught my eye on the side panel here over at Twitter when we were watching that Rand Paul video, and I was curious as to what it is. This says a CDC document circulating on social media details COVID-19 measures for people in humanitarian settings, according to fact checkers. So there's some document that circulated, and it outlines proposals for distancing and protecting high-risk individuals in settings such as refugee camps, according to Reuters, CNN, and the Dispatch. Wait. So wait, this says that Okay, so this says that the fact checker said that it's legit, right? Did I suddenly lose all literacy? So the document last updated in July of 2020 was produced in response to research concerning COVID. So, okay, this is weird. So the fact check is saying false, but that's not what the headline says. So I'm not really sure what this is about. So people claimed that it was putting high risk people living in that it was putting people into camps. Okay, Candace Owens falsely claimed it meant the agency was proposing putting high risk Americans into camps. This is a really strange fact check, because here they're like, yes, this is true, but it's false. So let's see the CDC, the CNN article here. Omega says, so are we in tyranny yet? And Robin says, did you see the story that I sent you about the school board in Tennessee? I did not. I had my phone on Do Not Disturb so that I could finish my video. So I did not. So according to the CNN article, right-wing figures have reveled in ridiculing the U.S. CDC. Some of the attacks are based on fantasies. Some of the attacks. That means that some of the attacks are not. Ha ha ha. So Candace Owens over at Daily Wire told her followers on Twitter that the CDC wrote a paper on putting certain people in camps during the pandemic. So here's the tweet. No, this is not a joke, and yes, every single person who has made a reference to 1930s Germany is vindicated. So let's go to the actual CDC thing here. So yes, this says July 26th, 2020. Okay, so for implementing the shielding approach in humanitarian settings as outlined in guidance documents focused on camps, displaced populations, and low resource settings. Okay, so in the fact check, it said that this was specifically about refugee camps. It doesn't use that word here, but we'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say that it's for refugee camps. But I can see certainly how that was extrapolated, because it says guidance documents focused on camps and displaced populations. Okay, so it said that it was the shielding approach aimed to risk the number of severe cases by limiting contact between individuals at higher risk of developing severe disease. High-risk individuals would be temporarily relocated to safe or green zones established at the household, neighborhood, camp/sector, or community level, depending on the context and setting. They would have minimal contact with family members and other low-risk residents. Well, see, my first question about this is, in the beginning, it was said that what should be done is protecting specifically high-risk individuals, but instead they went with a blanket approach. But then there's this document from July last year talking about the need to protect high-risk individuals. And they define that as older adults and people of any age who have serious underlying medical conditions. They are at higher risk. In most humanitarian settings, older population groups make up a small percentage of the total population. For this reason, the shielding approach suggests physically separating high-risk individuals from the general population to prioritize the use of limited available resources and avoid implementing long-term containment measures among the general population. So, I mean, I think one of the issues here is they break it down at the household level, neighborhood level, and the camp/sector level. I think one of the issues is what we're defining as well as a humanitarian setting, because you might think of like refugee camps, Habitat for Humanity, things like that. But there's also the argument that, and this is an argument that's actually been made by a lot of political philosophers, that what the government engages in through welfare systems, public health, blah, 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 is humanitarian conquests, basically. Conquest isn't the right word, but it falls into the operational definition of humanitarianism and humanitarian projects. So which definition are we working with? So let's go with the WHO here for quality of care in humanitarian settings, definition and key concepts on page 6. So let's jump to, here we go, to see what their definition is at the World Health Organization. So what's included in healthcare, definition of quality care, key humanitarian guiding principles. So humanitarian response is steered by international human rights law, international humanitarian law, and other key international legal instruments. These are intended to be adopted in country humanitarian response plans and health cluster response. So, I mean, there is an argument there. Core humanitarian, quality of care in humanitarian settings. In humanitarian settings, the same definition of domains and quality of care apply. I mean, there is no operational definition for humanitarian settings, so I can see why that argument was made and why people are concerned about it, because without an operational definition of what those settings actually are and include, the definition could be quite stretched. If they are including healthcare initiatives in general, healthcare ranges from preventative, promotive, curative rehabilitation, and palliative care. Yeah, interesting. I'm gonna, out of curiosity, let's see. Oops. Of humanitarian setting. I'm curious if we can find this somewhere. Operational considerations, appendices, guide to masks. It doesn't actually, they don't have a definition anywhere, it looks like, of what they are actually considering those settings to be. There's a definition of a healthcare setting. And of emergencies. So let's jump back to this like fact check thing here at factcheck.org. And it just says humanitarian settings in quotes, such as camps for displaced people. It says that the CDC document does not endorse the strategy, but explains the rationale and raises several potential concerns with it. But conservatives have misconstrued the text of the document to falsely claim that the agency is considering putting high-risk Americans into camps. Apparently, Candace Owens has been fact-checked a lot. The CDC... okay, so that's what the Epoch Times says that the CDC detailed in the July report about FEMA camps, essentially. There are, in fact, no CDC virus camps, nor did the agency ever propose such a thing. The document, moreover, is from July 26th of last year during the Trump administration. CDC public affairs specialist told us the agency document was specific to, quote, humanitarian settings and was created in response to a March 2020 paper from the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, which advised using the shielding approach in camps and camp-like settings for refugees and internally displaced persons to reduce the burden of COVID-19. So, I mean, like the immigration facilities, perhaps. But I mean, it doesn't say specifically those settings, but I mean, as far as we know, it wasn't implemented. So take that as you will, I suppose. All right, I'm going to try one last time to see if I can get the supers to load here. Let me try if I can see if I can access through a different browser. If I can even log in to a different browser. Oh, it's going to make me sign in. See if I even remember. Ooh. Let's see. Will it let two-step verification? All right. Let me get my little two-step verification here. Yes, it's me, Google. Let me try through this other browser. Oh, that's interesting. So the Rand Paul video on this browser actually pops up right in the top of my subscription list here. Oh, come on. Is it really not going to let me in at all? Thank you, everyone, for bearing with me for this. No. Oh, it's not working on either browser. I refuse to use Microsoft Edge, so I only tried Firefox and... I only tried Firefox and Chrome. That's really frustrating. Let me try opening it in a new tab. I don't know what that would do. Nope. That's really frustrating. Well, sorry, guys. Shane Lackey keeps saying squirrel. Well, I can read. This is really annoying. The ones that are displayed now that I can see the beginning of, I had access to in StreamYard, so I already read them. But, oh, there was one from Gardner that I can't get now. But I can see that it says, perhaps the Snopes guys can plagiarize someone to claim letter T, ... That's all that I get. That is so frustrating. I really am very sorry, guys. I hate that I can't read these for you. But thanks to everyone who sent them anyways. That is really frustrating. Well, those are all the articles that I had. So I guess that's it. And it's 8:45. So I suppose that's it. And here is oh, and then this was a link that Robin had sent in a super chat. And it's shot glasses, first COVID shot, second COVID shot. That's cute. That's crafty. All right, guys. Well, I guess that's it for today. Again, I'm really sorry about the super chats. That is really disappointing. Part of me wants to be a conspiracy theorist and say that because it also happened to Matt and Blonde that YouTube is sabotaging us. That's probably not the case because my TubeBuddy extension also keeps not working, and that's something that's supposed to help me pick keywords and edit descriptions and things like that. So I don't know, man. I don't know. It's probably stupid YouTube. They've been doing all kinds of stupid things. It's probably not anything just to me and Matt and Blonde, but Robin says you want your money back. Sorry. I mean, right now I can't even access to see like what money I would owe people. Wildcat Diva says it's not paranoia if they were really out to get you. All right, guys. Well, thanks again, everyone. Thanks, everyone who sent in the super chats, and I tried to get as many of them as I could, and I'm really sorry because I know there's definitely some that I missed, and StreamYard, unfortunately, only lets you scroll back a certain way, a certain amount. So I can only scroll back 8 minutes right now to a comment that John Morgan made at 8:40. For some reason. I don't really know why they do that, and they don't show up at the top either. Sometimes they do, but then they disappear. So thanks everyone who sent them in anyways. Thanks to the mods. Thanks to the folks. There was someone that sent me a PayPal, so thank you. We got a new Patreon patron in too, so thanks to you. Thanks to all of the lovely folks over on Patreon and Subscribestar and the people that use the affiliate links. You guys are really awesome. And check out the new video. There's a new affiliate in that one, We the People holsters. They've got some really cool stuff. They have shirts and things like that too, and all kinds of different accessories. So check them out. And I think that's it. I'm all flustered and thrown off because of this. But yep, check out the new video, and I will see you guys on the next stream and the next video. So thanks again for tuning in, and have a good weekend, everyone. Bye.